11 years of iPhone has sure come a long way. Some of you may criticize iPhones all you want, but it's really hard to deny how much one product has impacted the world as we know it. We've evolved from people reading newspapers on the subway to lots of time spent on our phones, and not just for communication. It's spun new companies, it's driven the death of those who were late to change, it's created new industries, and boy has it gained competitors. So, 11 years later, and now crowned as one of the most expensive phones money can buy, what's it like to use a $1,000 phone as your daily driver? I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocket Now, and this is our full review of the iPhone XS, brought to you by the geniuses over at Wix. iPhones are loved for a few key essentials that Apple has nailed ever since the days of the Mac. They have great taste in design, their products are easy to use, and even if they don't do everything that other competitors do, what they do right, at least for the most part. When it comes to the iPhone XS, I'd partially give it praise for its design. I really love the form factor concept of a large display on a phone I can handle with one hand. I'm a huge fan of its stainless steel finish, met by glass on each side. The new gold color has really grown on me. I've noticed it does a better job at looking clean when compared to last year's space gray. The only problem is just how sad it is for this elegant design to be marred by the protruding camera hump that loves to wobble on a table, and how the notch interrupts the otherwise border-to-border display. I even find it funny how Apple's new line of wallpapers focuses on hiding their own creation, just to prove that they're not really proud of it. Everything else about this Super Retina display is fantastic. It's being praised as one of the best displays of the year, and I agree. It's really hard to balance an OLED the way Apple does, and in ways where colors pop without being overbearing, and these speakers just make the content consumption experience more immersive. Almost is. The biggest question we've got on social media is if it's worth it to upgrade between the iPhone. iPhones have never been famous for topping the spec sheet, but this one is an exception. I mean, Apple's A12 Bionic is currently the most advanced mobile processor thanks to its 7nm architecture, and it's complemented by 4 gigs of RAM, options that range from 64 to 512 gigs of storage. We have a 2658 mAh battery, Qi wireless charging, and IP68 water and dust resistance. Yes, it is fast charging capable, but you won't get it out of the box, so that's an extra $75 combined, along with another $10 for the headphone dongle, since it also wasn't included in the box. As for ease of use, Apple wins all the points in my book. Complain all you want about iOS, but it continues to be the most practical paradigm on how to control a phone. I'm not saying that I'm a fan of the grid of icons on the home screen, but let's face it, even computers remain focused on this approach, and it's been more than 3 decades now, and consumers seem to prefer its simplicity. iOS 12 is a very refreshing and needed update to how the phone should work. It's made even older iPhones faster, so obviously the iPhone XS flies through any task with ease. There wasn't really any update to be wowed about, and yes, that means I honestly don't care about things like Memoji. What I do enjoy are features like screen time and all the new enhancements in the Do Not Disturb feature. I didn't really mention the analogy of newspapers to phone in a positive way at the beginning of this video. People really need time off their phones, and I love that you can now set ways for your phone to help you out with that. I still find these to be the most practical gestures for navigation, and I love that closing applications is now simplified. Lock screen notifications being stacked up is also something that took Apple forever to figure out, but I'm glad it's finally here. About the only thing left that I consider kind of ridiculous is how Control Center is on one side of the screen and then Notifications is on the other. Now, when it comes to doing less but doing it right, the iPhone XS as a daily driver is sadly not my favorite phone. Connectivity is seriously a problem that Apple needs to improve, either by ditching Intel modems or demanding that they get better. Obviously, for users that don't ever use anything other than an iPhone, it's really all you know. But my experience has been that whenever I'm far away from a Wi-Fi router, Android phones with Qualcomm modems will have no trouble remaining connected, while this $1,000 iPhone XS jumps back to LTE and forth back to Wi-Fi, and it's just really bad. And even in the case of data speeds, we've tested this device on 57th and 7th in New York City with the T-Mobile network, where speed should be stellar, and the iPhone XS just gets ridiculed by devices like the OnePlus 6T. Like seriously, so much for claiming gigabit LTE if only Android phones with Qualcomm modems are able to deliver. And the same goes for battery life. I mean, the iPhone XS has a slightly smaller power pack than its predecessor, which makes sense given the new processor's architecture. Sadly, even if Apple claims slight improvements, I don't really see them. I actually find myself connecting to a battery pack more often than I did before. About the only thing left to praise is performance. On our iPhone X comparison, it was clear that this chip launches games faster, though gameplay is pretty much the same. Now, another thing that I will have to praise is the camera. I was not a fan of the iPhone X, but Apple has really done some improvements to the hardware. Now, with a 12-megapixel primary shooter at f1.8 aperture, 1.4 microns, and a 26mm equivalent, plus a 12-megapixel telephoto camera at f2.4 aperture and 52mm equivalent, both with OIS and face detection autofocus. We also have computational photography being introduced with a smarter version of HDR, sort of like what we have on the Pixel. The results are great. I'm not saying they're significantly better when compared to Android flagships, but I do consider Apple to have finally caught up. Great saturation and detail on photos, though I do have to say the iPhone XS photos are actually warmer. That makes them more pleasing to the eye, but certain lighting can bring challenges to the results. Low light has definitely improved, with far less noise and really good results when it comes to moving subjects. Now, portrait mode may be out of beta in paper, but like in the case of all competitors, this is hit or miss. I still find iPhones to struggle with hair, but at least you now have the option to reduce or even remove the background blur after the shot is taken, which can actually save a bad shot when needed. I still consider the selfie camera to be just too cropped in, and even more for portrait shots. Beautygate was definitely an issue before iOS 12.1, but that clearly got fixed recently. So sad for me, that was actually making me look younger. And when it comes to video, this is my camera of choice as even a B camera for reviews. Great stabilization without any sort of warping, fantastic dynamic range, speed at focusing, and versatile 4K video at 60 frames per second, making this camera just ideal, in addition to stereo audio, finally. I wish I could say the same about the selfie camera with its horrible crop for video, but I do appreciate the stabilization, even if I feel it needs to take a bump from 1080p. While we reach our conclusion, let me interrupt this video for just 30 seconds to tell you about our sponsor, Wix. If you're interested in creating a professional website, blog, or online store without any coding knowledge, Wix offers an insane portfolio of tools for you to design something that's right for you. And it's all drag and drop, which is so practical. Or you can choose any of the hundreds of templates they offer. Learn more about Wix in the link in the description below. To conclude, let me just say that there are many reasons why the iPhone XS will continue to be in my pocket for a bit. I still consider it to be the adequate size for a phone, without compromising on the ideal of providing users with a large display. Yes, it's not entirely perfect, but it does a good job in most of the things that matter to me. And then there's the ecosystem paradigm where Apple excels in. Like for example, I prefer Final Cut Pro for editing my videos, which only works on a Mac. I record the Pocket Now daily on a microphone that requires a lightning connector. And then features like iCloud, AirDrop, and others truly make it valuable to own an iPhone and for it to talk to these other products. That, plus the fact that the Apple Watch Series 4 is one of my favorite smartwatches of the year, and which only works on an iPhone as well, and you know where my argument is going. For a guy like me, the iPhone XS is convenient, even if I know that it's not the best smartphone of 2018. For those of you who are not locked into this ecosystem, it's hard for me to recommend this phone for its price. $1,000 for a phone that isn't the best in connectivity and battery life is just a hard sell. Apple simply has no excuse in providing mediocre performance in the most essential features even cheap phones should do right, and then tax high with the price. For those of you who don't have a specific reason to want an iPhone, honestly, I would say that there are some better options out there to consider. And for the rest of you, the iPhone XS is just the better iPhone. Let us know in the comments down below what you think about the iPhone XS, and while you're at it, make sure you follow us on social media, subscribe to both our channels, English and Spanish, for more videos like this one, and follow me on Twitter, Jaime_Rivera, on Instagram at Jaime Rivera. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks.